everyone's right. We should all, I mean, this is a God-given natural plant. We should all have the right to grow this plant and use it, especially for medicinal purposes. And nobody has the right to stop us. But I mean, as long as the public are going to sit there and be docile and not stand up for their rights, then our governments and the big money who stands in the background that actually runs our governments and just about everything else in our world, I mean, they're just going to continue on with this. So I think, what I'm trying to do is raise awareness and get everybody, off their Chesterfields. Stand up, for your loved ones, your children. That what this medicine can do is beyond belief. Until once you work with this, these extracts, you soon realize, you more or less become your own doctor in a very short time. And you see a medicine here that is harmless, non-addictive, and will work basically in any medical situation. It's the best medicine that anyone can take.
Rick, quickly, because we got to go to a break, some have criticized you for calling your oil hemp oil rather than cannabis oil, but those people apparently don't realize that hemp is the name of the entire genus of cannabis, not just industrial strains. Can you comment on that?
Well, yes, I have had problems like that. Matter of fact, I got a letter from, I think it was a group of 5 different hemp seed oil producers, and they said that I was the worst thing that ever happened to the cannabis movement. I mean, farmers all through history grew this plant and they called it hemp. So when I produced the essential oil from that plant, what else would you call it? The problem is with the hemp seed oil producers, they call what they're selling hemp oil, but if you turn the bottle around on the back label, it says cold pressed hemp seed oil. So it's them, it's these hemp seed oil producers that are mislabeling their product. It should say hemp seed oil on the front. There has been quite a big mix-up, over this. And I believe me, I'm all in favor of hemp seed oil, too. It's wonderful. It's good for cardiovascular, but, and things of that nature. But it does not contain the healing cannabinoids. These cannabinoids are, they come onto as the plant grows, then it puts on these resins, and these resins are what can contain the healing cannabinoids. So hemp seed oil does not have near the healing powers that the real real essential oil from the hemp plant itself has.
We are talking to Rick Simpson on Hemp Present on CannabisRadio.com. We're going to take a quick pause for the cause because there's flaws in the laws, and come right back with Rick Simpson.
Time to roll out for the people that let us Hemp Present. Hang loose. We're coming right back.
MJWellness.com, the largest medical marijuana community in the world. Connect with thousands of patients, doctors, industry leaders, and businesses through shared personal experiences along our worldwide network. Discover new therapies and benefits with content tailored to you. Come grow your network on MJWellness.com. You're not alone. Your wellness matters. Learn, live, and thrive. Check out MJWellness.com today.
Your connection to quality cannabis insurance services is spelled K-A-E-R-C-H-E-R. That's Karcher Insurance. We have worked with ventures like cannabis for over 60 years. We're proud to represent over 50 companies with tailor-made cannabis plans for owners just like you to insure your product, your plants, and your pursuits. K-A-E-R-C-H-E-R spells out their full-service insurance services ranging from commercial to bonds to personal, from life to health, and more. Contact the team at KarcherInsurance.com and let our experience work for you. That's K-A-E-R-C-H-E-R Insurance.com.
Contact Karen and the team at Karcher Insurance at 1-844-421-3560. That's 844-421-3560.
Ignite the conversation on some trending topics along the Cannabis Radio social media network. Join our crew of thousands on our Cannabis Radio page on Facebook or at Canna Radio, C-A-N-N-A Radio on Twitter. Plus, look for our Facebook and Google Plus pages for all of our original programs and connect with Dr. Dina, Kyle Cushman, Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Nurse Heather, Doc Rob, the hosts of Ganjapreneur, and more. Connect with the growing Cannabis Radio social crusade at Canna Radio on Twitter or search for Cannabis Radio on Facebook, Google Plus, and Instagram and grow with us.
We're back to Hemp Present, only on Cannabis Radio. Now, back to our headstrong Emperor of Hemp, Vivian McPeak.
And we're back on Hemp Present on Cannabis Radio, and we're talking to Rick Simpson, who's all the way in Croatia. Rick, you attained international notoriety due to an internet video titled Run From the Cure, which you produced with filmmaker Christian Lorette. How did that come about? Did you ever think you'd end up being a household name in the medical marijuana movement and industry?
No, that was never my aim. Well, actually, we put out the website, phoenixtears.ca. We put that site up back in 2004, and we were getting some attention. But after I went, I was charged in 2005. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police had me up on charges, which, again, was ridiculous. But in 2007, I met Christian Lorette, and together we were able to put this wonderful documentary together. And it's been watched now by hundreds of millions of people all over the world. And, and people seeing the truth and, in the documentary that we presented. So I'm very pleased, with the results that, this documentary has achieved. There's so much involved with this movement. It's like shows like this, like people that are out there on the front line, spreading the word, spreading the truth. This is what we need. This is what I want people to understand. Like, your government is not working for you. They're working for the rich guy in the background, the guy that stands behind it, in the shadows. And this is truly a horror story. Because, like I said, this plant belongs to us all, and it doesn't belong to any government or any pharmaceutical company, and no government has the right to control its use in any way. Because I'm just like Jack Herer. Jack Herer said himself that he didn't know if cannabis would save the world, but he did know that it's the only thing that can. And I agree with Jack wholeheartedly. This is the plant we need to change everything. It can, it can end starvation. It can supply our energy needs, our medicines. You can make over 50,000 different things with this plant. And basically everything we need in our day-to-day lives can be produced from durable, long-lasting hemp. And it's renewable and sustainable. I honestly believe that, if we could get this legalized, or I want the laws, I don't want it legalized, I want the laws repealed. Take these absurd laws and throw them in a trash can. But once we do that, we can put people back on the land, growing the hemp. And then we can have so many hemp-based industries. I really think that this plant could end unemployment, and it detoxifies the earth. It gives us a sensible way of living. We're using up the natural resources on this planet at such an alarming rate, the burning the fossil fuels and driving the CO2 levels up. And then you have things like events like Fukushima. We're literally killing the planet that we need to exist. And I honestly, from everything I've studied, hemp offers us the only viable solution.
Yeah, it really feels like a war against the natural world, doesn't it, Rick?
It is. They're Codex Alimentarius, outlawing of the natural, genetic modification, chemtrails. They're killing us, for God's sakes. Especially in North America. I think the food supply here in Europe is much safer, but when I was back in Canada, I was afraid to go to the grocery store because I knew that basically everything in there, pesticides, growth hormones, antibiotics, none of the food in the grocery store, I didn't consider any of it to be safe to eat. So
I agree with you, Rick.
There's a real problem.
There really is. Rick Simpson, you attempted several times to report your extensive anecdotal findings about cannabis oil to mainstream cancer-treating institutions, but they all slammed the door in your face. What do you think's going on here? Do you think that they even want to find a cure?
No, I'm convinced now. Back in 2003, when I started passing this oil out to other people, and I contacted every political party in Canada. I went to 2 federal ministers of health. I went to Dr. David Suzuki, who put out that Reefer Madness episode on his show, The Nature of Things. We went to the Cancer Society. We even took this to the United Nations. It's the same rich people that are controlling all of these organizations. So this is the problem. They're milking us for everything they can get. We go out and we buy these stupid allopathic medicines. Medicine from chemicals and poisons. And then they have the whole world trained. If you get cancer, well, then you got to take chemo and radiation. Well, we all know that chemotherapy and radiation they're cancer-causing. They're carcinogenic. Yeah. So they're using cancer-causing treatments to treat our cancer. The whole medical system, as far as I'm concerned, when I look at the medical system today, all of this allopathic medicine, The doctors are all breaking their own Hippocratic oath, and they know it. Because the Hippocratic oath states, first do no harm, and it also states, as a doctor, I shall not administer poison. So what do these doctors of today think that they're doing? There's the problem. And the doctors are actually being forced to do this by the regulations that our government's put in place. So, the whole thing is just corrupted from top to bottom. This is the reason I say I want to see the people stand up for their rights. And that's all we have to do. Unite, just unite. And with one voice, tell our governments that we've had enough of this nonsense. Because literally, when you see the healing power of this plant, and you produce these extracts, then you'll realize the same thing that I did. This is the only medicine that can give us a future. And it's the only medicine, it's natural medicines like this that doctors should be prescribing if they want to go by their Hippocratic oath.
I've been thinking one of the only negatives about cannabis is that it might cause a population explosion because it saves so many people's lives in the future.
You're quite right, brother.
So do you feel that genuine RSO can be produced using sativa or ruderalis strains, or do you strictly prefer the more intoxicating indica strains for your medical oil?
Well, I always go with the indicas because the indicas they provide that sleepy, sedative feeling. They make you sleep, and then sleep and rest are part of the healing process.
Yep.
As far as sativas go, if you want to make a sativa oil and use it for exterior things like skin cancers or severe burns or psoriasis or things of that nature, that's fine. But if a lot of these sativa strains are very, very energizing, and if you try to ingest a sativa oil, then you could find that a lot of these patients will suffer a great deal of discomfort because it has the energizing effect is almost unbelievable with some of these strains. You're literally bouncing off the walls.
It can even cause some anxiety in folks that aren't used to it.
Oh, yes. And that's the reason I always say, produce the oils from the heavy sedative, indica strains. Those make the best medicines by far. As far as ruderalis goes, well, that's more of more industrial hemp. And I've never had anything to do with ruderalis. So I'll stick with my indicas.
Rick, here in Washington State, the tremendous momentum that we forged for medical marijuana over the last 15, 20 years, it's been eviscerated by the state's penchant for recreational marijuana's tax revenue. They're pretty much destroying medical marijuana here for recreational. Are you concerned that the lust for quick tax revenues from recreational marijuana will eclipse medical marijuana in other states?
Well, I'm concerned that they're looking at cannabis as being a cash cow. These are the same governments and political parties who outlawed the use of this wonderful plant many decades ago. And now they're bringing it back because they're being forced to, basically, because people are becoming aware of the wonderful healing effects this plant has. So these governments are being forced to legalize the use of cannabis for medicinal purposes at the very least. And now they want to reach in and get as much tax out of it as they can. I honestly think that we should go back, and I think we should take the money from the people that stole it from us. The big bankers, the ones that stand in the background, like the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Warburgs. These are the enemy, and they've been committing crimes against us for decades. And if I rob a bank, I don't get to keep the proceeds, do I? So I think we should take these people into a common law court, and I'm not saying to put them in jail, but make them admit their guilt. And take all of this money and power away from them. Leave them enough money to live out their lives. But then I'm not talking about a new world order. I'm against that. But I do think it may be that it is possibly time for like a world council to run this planet. Somebody from each region representing, their constituents on a world council and doing it with an open book policy to the public, nothing hidden anymore, no backroom meetings. And take all of this money and resources and distribute it all over the world. Help everyone. This is what should be done. And I've openly said that I would never pay tax, on cannabis, because to me it's ridiculous. This is our plant, so why are we paying corrupted government's tax?
Rick, you mentioned Jack Herer, who attended every hemp fest except the year he had his stroke. I believe he was initially viewed your claims as skepticism, but he made a full conversion and became a huge supporter of yours. Did you ever meet Jack? Were you friends?
Oh, Jack and I were very dear friends, but the only time I've never met Jack in person. We spent hundreds of hours talking to each other on the phone. We were like birds of a feather. Jack, what Jack said and what I said was basically the same thing. Jack told me himself, when he watched Run from the Cure, he told me, he said, Rick, it was like being